the end of 2012. Not the end of the world, it's just the end of 2012. So, at the end of 2012, the X prize money fee will be reduced by, I think, about 10 million. So, you really have, all teams are encouraged to reach the moon and all goals associated with it before 2012. This is really a short time frame. If you think about it, NASA and other agencies took about 10 or 8 years to plan a such mission like this. I know that DLR had planned a mission about 5 or 6 years and it didn't even happen. So just planning, you can spend a lot of time with it. And last but not least, I'm just writing we are not reinventing the cow. Why I'm saying not reinventing the cow? Normally you would say we are not reinventing the wheel, but we are reinventing the wheel. You will see this in Michael's presentation. Okay. Okay, so just one thing about us. Currently our team consists of 33 people with from all nations, from all professions. Just to give you a quick overview. We have engineers, we have aerospace professionals, students, broadcast engineers, retired military staff. We have economists. Yeah, you need them too. We have IT professionals, obviously, like me. And we have technical programmers. You need a lot of them. And what is really great, and this is where Jack Crenshaw, our special guest, comes in, we have some members from the retired Apollo staff, which are really great guys to work with, I have to say this. And they really have fun working on this again, because they did it 40 years ago. Okay, and last but not least, we have our partners, sponsors, and so on. Okay, and maybe you. So we're always interested into getting new members. So if you maybe have something special skills, because we are always looking for special skill sets, just talk to us after the presentation. We're having, okay, I should say that. We have preparing a booth outside on the right-hand side of this room, on the outer side, to where you can see all the technology. I brought some special boards and so on with us, so you can see it, touch it, and so on. Yeah. And there are some things for free, giveaways from our partners and from us. Okay. This is something I want to skip through very fast. So I want to have created a timeline where you can see all the first time events happening in regards of space exploration. You will quickly see what I mean. The first satellite ever. So we have a lunar impactor and so on. I will just skip to through because the intention of this timeline is not just to show any single event by itself. It's because to show you that the events are decreasing, not increasing. We have a relatively high increase to the 80s, and starting with the 90s, you will see it's rapidly going downwards. So space exploration, I'm not going to say it's falling asleep, but it really isn't that interesting anymore like what's in the 60s or 70s. So there was lots of things, very interesting things happening in the 70s and 80s, like the first space station and so on. Oh, okay. Yeah, this was the launch of the Columbia. Okay, it's a bit quick right now, but you can see the slides afterwards, so you can look at the pictures, anyone individual. Just because I haven't much time planned in for this, we could talk half an hour about all these events. Okay. So, and now we are in the 90s. So you see we get the Hubble telescope, and then we are in 2000. So no first event besides Hubble in between. Okay, you will say sometimes all first events are gone and you have to do normal stuff, but not having any special thing like being the first rover on Venus or something like Russia had means that you are simply stuck. You don't have doing any research, or you're simply not doing any progress. Maybe you are doing a lot of research, but you're not trying something. You are sitting at home and planning about it. So this guy is really great. It's Dennis Tito. It's the first private space tourist. The part that he took was something that really kicked off some very interesting, because after him, people tend to be more interested in regards of space, because they say, hey, okay, private person getting into space, maybe I could do it too. If you see here, China started its space program, and they're pretty much advanced right now. And as again, 2004, we have Spaceship One, the first private spaceship. So as you see, after 2000, private people are getting their share of space exploration. So, and there should be only one additional mission. Ah, it's Cassini, okay. And that should be it. Yes, it was. Okay, now come to the last part. It's a little bit more technical, and then we come to the rover part. So, again, with some very interesting animations. I have to say regarding this animation system, it's a self-developed 3D OpenGL-based rendering software. Yeah, there could be many reasons why we've wrote it, but I simply have to say that normal slideshow presentation softwares are simply too lame. You have to, if you have a lot of pictures on your slides, you have big files and so on, and you can't do it. With this software, you can simply use vector graphics or TIFF files and just animate them any way you want with effects. So it's quite interesting. Okay, back to our rocket. Now we're talking a bit more technical details. As I'm a person, I favor technical details, so. Okay, so we have a picture of the Falcon 1E rocket. The Falcon 1E is, as I said before, a rocket developed by the SpaceX. So what our team tries to use as our carrier device, not to the moon, I have to say this, not to the moon, because they have direct and indirect transactions to get to the moon. We want to get to the low Earth orbit first, and from the low Earth orbit with a second engine to the moon. This may sound more complicated than having a rocket which gets you to the moon in direct way, but it's a lot of better, but it's a little bit more complicated to explain. Maybe I'm not sure about it if Jack tells a little bit about this, because this involves a lot of delta V factors and mathematics in this regard. Okay, one thing we really want to achieve, and we are currently working together with SpaceX in this regard. If you read Wikipedia or something like this, you will always see a number like if you want to send something to low Earth orbit, you have to pay $10,000 per kilogram. It's quite a normal number. It's always, everyone says it. We've developed some modifications where we want to get below this number. This really helps you, because if you think $10,000 per kilogram, I want to do some things first. As our rover will be presented, we'll only have about 5 kilograms. And it would be $50,000 just to get it to the low Earth orbit, not considering all the fuel you need to go there. So getting below this really helps to get more people to shoot something in this direction. Okay, and this is just for info. We have about 1,010 kilograms of mass to low Earth orbit currently. This intakes about 80% of fuel. This is something quite special, because normal missions are packed full of electronics and experiments and get a little bit less fuel, and what you end up is something like L-Cross. You have a mission with a relatively short lifetime. Okay, maybe you fulfill all your requirements in this short lifetime, but you can't do anything later on. So, for example, if you run out of fuel, your craft will simply crash on the surface. So there's nothing you can do with it any longer, and you can't get any backup fuel or so. So planning into a lot of fuel reserves really extends your mission lifetime. So you can do more things, let me say, 5 years after you finished your mission. Okay, the lunar lander is something that is quite a secret right now, but one thing that are currently public is the mass of 300 kilograms. And one very important thing. Our lunar lander tries to do the same as Russia did before. We want to do an automatic sample return mission. So, as I said before, the lander will do a soft landing on the lunar surface, and after this, the rover will depart from the lander, and then the landing part will take a surface probe and will restart again in a relatively short time window. Why same time window? Because if it's standing still too long, it's cooling out, and you can't get back the engine on. So you have a relatively short time frame to get your sample, get it into the lander, and start the engine up again. So, and due to the low gravity of the moon, it's relatively easy to get back to Earth. And we've already talked to the agencies necessary. They provided us with an option to do our sample recovery. So we get a surface probe back and get a recovery of this probe